Every photograph tells a story. Discover the incredible stories that lie behind these historic photos that capture the highs and lows of humanity, from pain and despair to resilience and hope. Chief Sitting Bull. Chief Sitting Bull led the Dakota resistance against the American incursion into their traditional territory and the famous battle at Little Bighorn, where General George Custer and his forces were wiped out entirely. This photograph of Sitting Bull holding a peace pipe was taken in 1885 during a brief period when he toured with Buffalo Bill's Wild West show before returning to lead his people at Standing Rock. Artificial lightning. Circa 1900, Nikola Tesla sits in his Colorado lab amid his massive coil and magnifying transmitter, with ball lightning flitting about. The eccentric American electrician and inventor had dreams of transmitting wireless electricity across vast distances with no loss of power. Building the Eiffel Tower. One of the most recognizable buildings in the world, and a famous landmark in the French city of Paris, is the Eiffel Tower. It was constructed in the late 19th century to serve as the focal point of the 1889 World's Fair, and it continues to stand as a testament to French engineering and culture. Gustave Eiffel, a French engineer and businessman who won the competition to construct a tower for the World's Fair, created the tower. The wrought iron lattice tower in Eiffel's design was intended to be 300 meters, 984 feet tall, making it the largest man-made structure at the time. Roosevelt and Muir at Yosemite. It's hard to imagine a sitting U.S. president without a massive security detail, but back in 1903, President Theodore Roosevelt, left, visited naturalist, conservationist, and Sierra Club founder John Muir, right, at Yosemite. The two are pictured here at Glacier Point, Yosemite Valley. This historic visit spurred the president to initiate a large-scale conservation program, the Vanishing Race. In 1904, photographer Edward Curtis captured a group of Navajo riding their horses into the distance in the Vanishing Race. As settlers advanced westward, Native Americans were driven from their traditional lands onto reservations and forced to assimilate. Curtis sought to document the different tribes, though sadly his 20-volume body of work fed into the stereotype that indigenous peoples represented the past, not the present or future. Felling giants. Circa 1910, lumberjacks cut down a giant redwood in California, home to sequoias and redwoods, some of the planet's largest, tallest, and oldest trees. Giant sequoias can live about 3,000 years, while redwoods can grow to be more than 107 meters, 350 feet tall. Their conservation is now more important than ever, as these giants sequester large amounts of carbon. The RMS Titanic. On April 10, 1912, the RMS Titanic, the most luxurious passenger liner of its time, set sail on its maiden voyage from England to New York City. Equipped with watertight compartments, the vessel was believed by many to be unsinkable. In this haunting photograph, the ship sails past an iceberg. The next day, the Titanic hit a similar berg and sank, killing some 1,500 people. Japanese internment camp. During the Second World War, in both the United States and Canada, thousands of citizens and residents of Japanese origins, without charge or due process, were expelled from their homes on the West Coast, had their belongings and property confiscated, and were confined in camps in remote areas like the one pictured here in Edgewood, British Columbia. Migrant mother. While working for the U.S. government's Farm Security Administration in 1936, Dorothea Lange took this picture to raise awareness of the dire situation farmers were facing. The photograph of Florence Owens Thompson and 3 of her 7 children living in hunger and poverty in a farm workers' camp in California became a symbol of the plight of migrant farm workers during the Great Depression. The Hindenburg. In 1937, the Hindenburg, a German Zeppelin filled with highly flammable hydrogen, burst into flames while landing at Lakehurst, New Jersey. The airship was completely destroyed, and 36 people lost their lives in the disaster, bringing the use of Zeppelins for commercial air transportation to an abrupt end. Carving Mount Rushmore. Mount Rushmore was a massive undertaking that took the skills and efforts of nearly 400 men and women to complete over the course of 14 years, from 1927 to 1941. The workers labored year-round in the burning sun and the blistering cold. Many were afraid of heights, but jobs were scarce during the Depression. Pictured here is sculptor Gutzon Borglum and his superintendent inspecting the work on George Washington's nose. Juno Beach. In 1944, Canadian troops were deployed to Juno Beach, Normandy for D-Day. Together with U.S. and British forces, they landed on 5 different beaches to help free Europe from fascism and put an end to the Nazi Reich. Anne Frank. Anne Frank is famous for her diary, which recounts the 2 years she spent hiding from the Nazis. The young Jewish girl and her family went into hiding in 1942 in Amsterdam. Her last diary entry was in 1944, when they were discovered by the Gestapo and later taken to the concentration camps. The 7-Year Itch. The scene, shot in 1954, where Marilyn Monroe stands over a New York subway grate in a little white dress, battling the breeze, became one of the most iconic moments in movie history. While the shot may have captured fans' imaginations, it may also have contributed to Monroe's divorce from baseball star Joe DiMaggio, who felt it was too exhibitionist. The fall of the Berlin Wall. The heavily guarded Berlin Wall that separated West Berlin from East Berlin in Germany was built in 1961 and stood as a symbol of division and the Cold War. In 1989, as rebellions surged against the Soviet bloc, East and West Germans began to tear down the wall, many with simple hammers like the man pictured here.